Okay, all right. Good evening, everyone. On behalf of the entire town council, thank you for coming out. This is a very monumental occasion in the town of Bloomfield, where we're going to hear from two candidates who are looking to be our next town manager. But before they come in, I just want us to remember the whole process. So a few months ago, the executive search firm of Randy Frank was chosen to do this great work of putting a profile together and looking for a town manager. They did come. They had different meetings in town with different groups to get your idea of what a town manager should be for our amazing town of Bloomfield. I think they had about 4 meetings in different areas, the senior center, the police department. They spoke with staff, they spoke with the council. A profile was developed. After the profile was developed, it was sent far and wide to various agencies looking for candidates. After that was done, we received 11 candidates. Randy and her team narrowed some of that down. The council interviewed by Skype, hooray for technology, 5 of those candidates, the entire council did. And while they were all really nice individuals, we narrowed it down to 2. The entire council did. I like to say that because there's wisdom in council. And you're going to meet those 2 gentlemen this evening. They've had a chance to tour our town. They've had a chance to speak with our employees. They've had a chance to speak with our department heads. They've had a chance to speak with our current town manager. They've had a chance to speak with the council. Now it's your turn. So you will hear from each of them. They will take about 10 minutes or so to give a brief introduction of who they are and who they came with. And after that, we're going to separate. Some people will stay here, and then we'll also be in the room next door, and we can rotate through, because this really is a meet and greet. It's an opportunity for you as residents to get to know as much as you can in such a short space of time, these 2 gentlemen. And then after this is done, the council will then make a decision, and we will keep you abreast of absolutely everything that takes place, so that when the process is done, not only will the council feel confident that we've done the best thing for our town, but our residents will feel like they have been a part of the process. So once again, thank you so very much for coming out. Please, after the 10 minutes is done, interact with the gentleman, get that gut feeling, and we hope it will be a great evening. For our viewing audience, if you do not have the chance to be here this evening, there will be another session tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. It's bright and early on a Saturday. So our first candidate is Mr. John Edward Pate.
Thank you, Mayor, for such a warm introduction. I appreciate it. My name is John Pate. I have 15 years of municipal government experience and federal government experience. I currently work in the Village of University Park as the city manager and director of public safety, where I manage all departments, as well as police, fire, and EMS. Majority of my career has been putting residents first. As I look at Bloomfield and as I tour the town today, I'm very impressed by the town, its infrastructure, the economic development growth that I see, and honestly, the various different types of areas that I see within the town. You have a beautiful area that addresses nature and ruralness. You have a wonderful urban area as well, a wonderful school district. And it was very impressive during my tour today. And then after speaking to the department heads and speaking to the council, I'm even more motivated today about wanting to be your town manager if selected. I have you know, as a city manager, as a town manager, I have 6 top priorities that I always look at. And my biggest priority that I look at is residents first, right? As the Chief Executive Officer of the town, it's my responsibility to obtain feedback from the residents as well as our council in order to set the direction of the town as far as its day-to-day operations. So I look at residents as key stakeholders and benefactors in how the town runs. Currently where I'm at, literally, each resident has my cell phone number. Each resident reaches out to me directly in regards to any concerns. I believe it's important to have that one-on-one contact with our residents and have that open door policy. I think it's essential and important to do that because it gives the residents a sense of comfort and knowledge to know that their concerns matter. The second thing I look at is economic development. The town has a lot of economic development. And what does economic development mean? Tax savings for the residents down the line. The more economic development we have, the more tax base we get as far as businesses and industry. We're able to take taxes off the backs of the taxpayer of the residential community and enhance that and have more economic development and industrial growth and business growth. What does that mean? Jobs. Jobs for our children, jobs for the residents, jobs for the region. What does that mean for our school district? Internships, job development growth, being able to do public-private partnerships with businesses and bring industry into our schools and industry in the town to have a one-on-one relationship with the businesses we bring in. Another thing I look at is leadership and professional development. Leadership is very important to me. 15 years in the military, senior human resources manager in the military as well as the human resources instructor. A lot of my experience in municipal government is public safety, served as a chief of police and a director of public safety. So I believe in leadership and leading by example. It's my responsibility to lead this community in the right direction based on the direction from the town council that's provided. That's what a town manager does. They're the buffer between the public and the town council. As a town manager, I implement policy and legislation that the council puts forth, and I ensure that that policy and legislation is put forth properly, as well as I provide input to the town council based on resident input that I receive every day, based on my observations, based on the input that I receive from the residents, and input that I receive from the stakeholders. Another huge thing that I see here is a strong relationship with the school district, putting our students first, right? In other states and other places you go, you have a school district that's shared by multiple municipalities. You all are fortunate to have a school district that's dedicated to the residents of Bloomfield, which is very, very important. So it's important to reinvest in the students, reinvest in education, and make sure that education is placed foremost in the view of town management, and ensuring that the town council is provide the opportunity to provide more investment into education and ensuring the school district is operating in an appropriate manner as directed and based on resident input. It is very important. Innovation, technology. I'm huge on 21st century technology and innovation. Revamping the way residents interact with the municipality. Online, electronically is important. Going paperless, being able to submit forms and do things in an electronic manner where residents don't have to necessarily come to town hall to conduct their transactions. Being able to communicate seamlessly through technology and integrating technology throughout the town through various relationships and partnerships we can develop in innovation and technology. This town has a lot of potential, a lot of industry that already invests in technology. Why not harness it for our residents? Why not bring benefits to our residents and improve technology and 21st century innovation? And another thing is town operations. We look at how the town operates overall. It's important that I get feedback from residents in order to understand the efficiency and effectiveness of the departments in town. If as a town manager I'm not aware of certain things going on, I cannot change, I cannot create efficiency, I cannot make things better. So I rely on the residents, and I'll be honest with you, I'm very impressed by the amount of residents I see today. It shows how much you care about your town and love your town. So each one of you, I expect if I'm here to hear from you. And I'm not saying that as being standing here and just vocalizing it. I want to hear from everybody in this room. I want to serve all demographics, all ages, all ranges, making sure I get input from every segment of the town. I'm excited about being here. I'm excited about Bloomfield, and I'm excited about coming here and putting our residents first. Thank you so much.
Our next speaker is Mr. Robert Wood.
All that, I didn't even do anything yet. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. It's impressive this many people showed up on a Friday night. I was born in Austin, Texas, and I've lived there most of my life. My father was a police officer. My mother stayed at home with my sisters and I, and also kept foster children while I was growing up. So it's something we did. And I found out today that Bloomfield has the most foster families per capita, I think, of just about anywhere. So that's impressive because I know how hard that is to do. I watched my mom do that with the foster kids as I was growing up. I'm going to use my glasses so I don't have to squint because it'll probably work better. Excuse me. Before I get going again, I need to point out that my beautiful wife is in the back of the room here, Kathy. So we've been married for 26 years. We actually met in high school in Austin. We've been married for 26 years. We have a son who is 20, who is going to school in Boston right now. And our daughter is 17. She'll graduate from school in May, from high school, and then she starts school in New Haven in this coming August or September, whatever date the school starts. I went to UT for an undergraduate degree and then decided that I wanted to be an economist, so we moved to Michigan and lived there for a year. So we've been around the snow, been in the cold weather, and that wasn't what made us leave. We left because I decided I didn't want to be an economist after learning what they did. So we went back to Austin. I enjoyed UT, so I went back again and got a degree in public affairs. And I just told the council upstairs during the interview that I had planned on going into state or federal government. There was a number of different issues I was interested in. But I took a city management class or a local government management class while I was there and realized that actually that was something that was a lot more interesting to me. And the reason was, and the same thing I told the city council, you get to work with people on much more on a kind of one-to-one level than you do at the state and federal level. You're a lot closer to the people that you work for. And you also get to see things be done. You actually get to accomplish things and get to finish projects. And someone calls and says, I have a pothole. You know, it's a small issue, but it might not be to them. Get the pothole filled, and you can see that pothole was filled. And so I decided, you work at the federal level, and you might work on a project for 10 years and it never happens, or you work in some administration somewhere and you never really get to see results. Whereas here, the council can decide this year we're going to focus on improving the parks. And so then they budget the money and we work on the parks and the parks get better. So you can see the results of the work that you're doing, which I think is very important, at least it is for me. I was hired as a city manager during my third semester of graduate school. There was 4 semesters because it's a 2-year program, and started during my last semester. And I had never had a paid job with a city before. I did an internship for about 2 months with a city near Austin when I was going to school, but had never been a department head or done anything else for a city. And so I think I told the council this too, but I remember after I'd been there for a few months and knew the mayor pretty well. The mayor was a really nice woman that did a great job as a mayor, and we were sitting in my office one day and I said, I've never actually had a paid job at a city before, and you just hired me as your city manager. How bad was the applicant pool that you had for this job that I got? And so she and I joked about that a lot, but I ended up being there for 8 years and it worked out really well. It was a great experience. We had our 2 kids by then, so we decided to move back to the Austin area, and I got a job in a city called Westlake Hills. It's a suburb of Austin. The interesting part about kind of my career, I've only worked in 2 cities. I've been doing this for 20 years, but just worked in 2 cities. I was in the first one for 8 years and the second one for 12. And to me, that's important. I think stability in a city government, a town government, is very important. Both, I think it's nice at the council level to have people around for a while, and also at the staff level, because then people kind of, they know They know what's going on, they kind of understand the issues, and you can really get some work done. And you see cities, and I've seen some around me where they change out the manager every 2 years or so, and you just can't get things accomplished that way. So my goal has always been to stay in cities and towns, whatever local government I'm working for, long term, because I think that's better for the town or city, and also better for me, because it allows me to actually dig in and get some of the work done. The city is also one of the things that has helped, or I think will help in a place like Bloomfield, because of the diversity you have here. The cities that I've worked in were completely different. The first one was a rural city that had mostly low to moderate income people in it, kind of a blue-collar rural town, what you would probably imagine in Texas. The city I work in now is an affluent suburb of Austin, so it's in an urban area, so about as different as the other city, from the other city that it could be. So the nice thing about that is I've learned to work with all different types of people, and that's really what this job is about. It's really about working with people, whether it's the staff, the city council, residents, whoever it is, about working with people. And so I've learned to work with all kinds of people, feel like I can talk well with people and listen to their concerns and try to address those. Unfortunately, as the town manager, or even as a council member, we can't always do what someone wants to be done. There's limitations on what can be done, but we can listen and try to do what we can to address issues that people have. I want to let you know why I'm interested in Bloomfield, because some of you might say, well, you're in Texas, so why, all of a sudden you want to move to where there's snow. There's a couple of reasons. I'll start kind of at the higher general level and then work down to the more specific. It's a beautiful area, for one thing. My wife and I have been to the area a number of times because our son's in Boston. We've been here other times, and many years ago, she and I talked about eventually moving to the New England area, and so it's something that's been on our minds for a while. It's a great location. You're in between two major urban areas of Boston and New York, and that's that's exciting to be close to those and be able to take advantage of those different locations. But you're not living in those areas, and so you live in a smaller urban area here in Hartford. Still have everything you need. Everything's still here, but you have access to these other areas. There's a lot of opportunities for outdoor recreation. I think it's great that you've got mountains on one side and drive 45 minutes the other way, and you can be at the beach. That's a pretty unique situation to have. And then the opportunities like the trails that I've heard talked about and that I'd like to investigate, either by hiking or mountain biking. We looked at the river today, where the town is getting ready to start work on a park that would have a place to launch canoes and kayaks. And kayaking is something that my wife and I both enjoy doing. And can't forget the fact that the town of Bloomfield is halfway between Boston and New Haven is sort of convenient, since that's where our kids are going to be for a while. One of the things that attracted me to Bloomfield when the listing first went up was that Bloomfield has obviously been known for quite a while as a city that embraces diversity. And most of you probably know that that's not true everywhere. And so when I started doing my research, and I thought, well, this is an interesting characteristic they have, and I found out that the All-American Award had been given to the town way back in 1970, 1971 because of that and the efforts that the town had made to integrate the schools. And I'm from an area where that was not the case at all. And so that rather than embracing it, people were actually fighting that. And then in the 1980s, I found an interesting article that was written, I think it was in the Times or Washington Post, one of the big papers, and they were talking about this same issue, and they were interviewing people in town, and they were talking about how the town was embracing diversity. And I thought, that's pretty amazing, because in the 1980s, I don't think there were a whole lot of people talking about embracing diversity, at least not where I was. Maybe it was just a Texas thing, but people were talking about what a great thing that was, and I was impressed by that. From the research I've done and then the great tour that we had today, it's obvious that Bloomfield is an up-and-coming community. It's obvious that there's a lot of room for economic development and other types of development to improve the town. It's also obvious, one, because all of you are here tonight, but also just from talking to people, that the residents are interested in the community and they care about the community. Talking to your city council or your town council, they clearly care about the community and wants what's best for the community. That doesn't mean that all the residents and all the council members agree on what that is, but everybody wants the best for the community, and so you're starting off at a point where everybody wants to get good things done. I want to tell you quickly about two projects or issues that I've dealt with in my career that I think will give you a little bit of an idea of how I deal with things and how I would try to do things if I were in Bloomfield. The first city I worked in was called Flatonia, not because it was flat, but there was a guy there that was named Flato, and so they named the town after him. His last name was Flato. When I got to the city, you'll remember I was 27 and still in school, and I drove around the city a little bit to get an idea of what was going on, and I noticed that there was a neighborhood that looked like it was in a lot worse condition than the rest of the city. And so I started asking some questions about it and saying, why does that neighborhood look different? Well, it turns out that it was the kind of the low-income area of town, and it was also predominantly African-American. And so it appeared, and I don't know, I wasn't there, but it appeared that neighborhood had been neglected over the years. And so I started talking to some people in that neighborhood. I asked around, and they said, well, you should talk to so-and-so. She used to be on the city council, and she's sort of the spokesperson for our neighborhood. She knows all the issues. And so I talked to her, and she said, yeah, nothing ever gets done here, and we've got a lot of issues. And one of them she mentioned was, we need to beautify this neighborhood, and we've got a lot of dilapidated houses and things that need to happen here. So it's great when you're young and naive and don't know any better. I just said, okay, well, let's go start tearing some houses down. And so we found out what the process was and the procedure, and then we contacted the owners, and a lot of times they would say, hey, that's fine, you can tear it down if you want to, we can't afford it. And so we went through this process and tore probably 10 or 15 houses down in the neighborhood, and I got phone calls from people saying, hey, that's a nice start. And then we had people that were in dilapidated houses, but they lived in them. And so that's a little bit harder, because then you don't want to evict people from their houses and tear their houses down. So we found a program at the state level. There was a program called the Home Program. It was a grant program that actually would pay to build new houses for people that were in substandard houses. And we applied twice and actually were able to build 10 or 12 houses at the time. And it paid for people to be relocated to a hotel or somewhere else so they could live while the house was being built, and then gave them either, depending on how many people lived in the house, a 2 or a 3-bedroom brick home, with a brand new brick home that was built on site. And so that's, again, I said at the beginning, I was attracted to local government because you can actually get things done. That was an instance where when I left that town, I could look back and say, there's 10 to 15 families that have a brand new home that are in much better circumstances. They had been living in single wall homes. Some of them didn't even have running water in the house, didn't have electricity connected to the house. And so that was something that the city was able to do, and that's why I believe in city government. I believe in town government. I think we can do good things for people. The other one is, we'll give you an idea of what I think about how the town hall should deal with and help residents. The city I'm in now, when I was hired, the mayor told me, one of the reasons the council hired you is because you seemed like a nice guy. And I said, well, that's good, but, and he said, well, that wasn't the only reason, but that, it seemed like a nice guy. And I said, okay, well, why are you bringing that up as being, such a relevant issue? And he said, well, the guy that was here before you was not a nice guy. He was a horrible guy, and had it to the point where people in town, he said, were not only not interested in going to City Hall because they didn't want to deal with the staff or deal with anybody at City Hall, they were actually to the point where a lot of people were afraid to go to City Hall because of the way they were treated there. And I thought, how does that situation ever even occur? I don't understand how that occurred. And he said, so that's first thing we want you to do is fix that. And so when I was interviewing with the council, I told them it took about a year or so to kind of go through a lot of those issues with the staff and say, I don't know what you were doing before, but here's how we do it now. And everyone should feel comfortable coming in here. Everyone should feel like, it's their city hall. They should be able to go there anytime they want to and get anything they need. And so most of the employees were doing the things they were doing because they had been told to do that. So it wasn't so much a people problem or that we had the wrong employees, as most of that they had been told or they had been led and managed by someone who was telling them the wrong things to do. And so it didn't take long for most of the employees to completely flip the way that they dealt with people. There were a few that just kind of couldn't get out of those habits, and so they were kind of put on an improvement plan, is what I usually call it, a performance improvement plan. And we worked with them for a while, and some of them just never got with the program. And so I finally decided the only way to fix it was to bring other people in. So we actually have a city hall now that I can say, people come in and say, boy, you're sure, builders and everybody, you're sure a lot easier to work with than the other cities I work with. And so that's something that I think is important to city. People should feel comfortable, all of you should feel comfortable talking to me or talking to anyone at City Hall. And so that's the kind of perspective and the sort of culture that I would try to bring here is to make it so that everybody feels like they can be heard and that they all have a part in the discussion. The system that you have here in your town, I think most of you know, is a council manager form of government where we have a city council that instructs the manager on what they would like to have done and the direction they want the town to go in. And so I understand that system well, and I think it's the best system for a town or a city to have because they're elected. They know what's going on here. They know what needs to be done, and I work with them and give them my input. And I think that's the best way to get things done in the town, and I'd love to come work with you and get to meet everyone. Thank you.
So that was like a quick thing of speed dating, right? So we're going to have an opportunity where we can now, one-on-one or in a group, speak directly to our candidates. It's a lot different when they're not at the podium or on TV, because Howard's going to turn the TV off, when you can just talk to them and get to know them a little bit better. And we do realize that it's a short period of time. It's a great amount of people. We're so excited about that. So if we can just rally around, that'd be great. So we're going to have John stay here. I'm sorry, we're going to have Robert stay here, and John is going to go next door. So if we can just mill around and try to get to know them as much as you can in the time allotted. Once again, thank you so very much for coming out. Thank you for lending your voice to the process. And remember tomorrow, and if you didn't have enough tonight, or if you didn't get all your questions answered tonight, please meet us here tomorrow and tell your friends, your neighbors, and if you have some enemies, just tell them to come out at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. We do have some snacks and some water so you can refresh yourselves while you get to know the candidates a little bit better. Thank you.
I can ask some of the people to walk this way so